Welcome back to our trek through the Cypher Key Lair. We're almost done with this place. I did go back to heal, so I'm all set for what's coming up. I don't think I want these two in the lead for the next fight, though. You'll see why in a moment. Who do I want for this one, actually? Yeah, I probably want Lyra. So, time to climb up to the roof. And have this guy just wandering around. I'm just going to get him out of the way right now. This guy is completely optional. But every bit of experience is nice, especially because coming up, also Fuddler is probably one of the silliest names we've seen so far, and that's saying something. It sounds like the protagonist of a slapstick comedy. Anyway. Now I'm just picturing that. But, yeah, this guy has no Shadow Pokemon, and he is entirely optional. But you want as much experience as possible before the next fight, because the levels are going to spike up a lot very, very soon. This guy actually has a very diverse team, so you'll need a diverse team of your own to really fight him effectively. I originally went into this leading with Leviatine and Ricky, and it didn't really end well. But yes, we've got a Fortress coming out now, so I actually want to switch to Leviatine. Like I said, this guy's got a pretty diverse team. But while we're just doing a random optional battle, I'd like to draw your attention to the background here. Is it just me, or does the background look like a two-dimensional cardboard cutout? It just looks like it looks flat to me, and like if you look closely, you can even see the point where it's like divided into 4 walls. I don't know. Yeah, a lot of the backgrounds in this game do look pretty good, but sometimes they don't, and I'd say this is one of those times. I like how they've like detailed the roof itself, and I like they have a specific battlefield for the roof, rather than just doing like the Pyrite Bulldog, and just teleporting you to the ground when you battle on the roof. But the backdrop here just, it looks like it's just a cardboard cutout, and it's just a flat image. But yeah, that's all I'll say about that for now. And Crobat, yet more evil team members who maybe care for their Pokemon. I don't know, and I'm not going to be using physical moves on you, so, yeah. Actually just realized that despite the fact I said this guy has a pretty diverse team, a lot of it is weak to Psychic. Well, it's weak to a Psychic type that also has Thunderbolts. Of course, Crobat's going to be outspeeding pretty much everything, so I'm not surprised that it went first, but I'm glad that it used a non-attacking move, although I kind of wanted to see Crobat's attacking animation, because it is pretty funny. It sort of turned into a bat wheel. Which, for some reason, sounds like a Batman term, but I don't think it is. And Fortress, naturally, is going to go down to that. I'm guessing that would have been one at KO twice over. Probably. Fortress does not like fire at all. But yes, there's Fuddler defeated. And, yeah, he's going away party. Funny you should say that, because, yeah, he's actually just gone. He disappears forever, never to be seen again. So, going around the roof here, this ominous door looks like it's where we need to go next, but it's locked from the inside. No getting in there yet. But, as you can see, this staircase is guarded, which obviously means there's something important behind it. Firstly, definitely want Leviatine here. You're getting a little bit behind, actually. I might go ahead and use you in Orson. That's kind of disturbing. I'm not going to try and slice your chest or anything like that. I am just going to hurt your Pokemon a bit. So, Cyberpeon Angic. This guy, well, I recognize the name. When you play these games enough times, you learn to recognize the names of the trainers who have Shadow Pokemon. I kind of spoiled it there, but yes, Angic is one of those names. So, yeah, I know what's coming. Unfortunately, we've got an Intimidate user on the field here, so that could be bad, but I do have my Fire Blast. Also, Golduck, despite being a Water type, I don't think is that much of a pressing threat. It doesn't have that much in the way of good moves. Let's see, Confusion. I still think Golduck should have been Water Psychic. Its move pool is set up as if it is Water Psychic, and for some reason it isn't. Wow, that did more than I expected. Focus Energy. Last time I thought you used Rapid Spin. Both of them relatively useless moves. One of them, I mean, I guess Rapid Spin at least does damage, so it's slightly less useless. And even with Intimidate, Return still hits very, very hard. Oh, Hariyama, that's actually not good for Orson. Lyra is kind of effective against a lot of these fights. Also, I probably don't want to use Fire Blast on the Hariyama because it might have Thick Fat. I guess we can try and see whether or not it has Thick Fat, but for now, I'm gonna... I really don't want to switch out for Lyra because Lyra's over level, but I don't want to switch out for Fish Slayer either because Fish Slayer will get destroyed by the Hariyama. I think I'm gonna go for Ricky here. Just because of the possible resistance to Golduck, even though it's probably just going to use Confusion anyway. I want Ricky out in the field for the Shadow Pokemon anyway, so this kind of... See, this is a Scratch! Why? I mean, I think I vaguely remember Golduck has a pretty terrible learn set in Gen 3. Guess we're not going to find out whether or not you have Thick Fat, but still, there's no real excuse for that. Ow. Yeah, I think I'm getting out of here. In fact, I probably am going to go into Lyra. And... I'll just Mach Punch the Golduck. Because I know the Hariyama's going to go down to 1 Psychic anyway. So, let's just get a little bit of extra damage on the... That's kind of a funny ability to trace. Would be funny if you had Rain Dance, but no. I think I did end up describing the Cloud9 ability in Colosseum, but yeah, it basically... It doesn't get rid of wet... That's kind of funny. It doesn't get rid of weather entirely, like a lot of people think. But it does effectively treat it as if the weather wasn't there. So the weather is still present, it's just not doing anything. That's basically how Cloud9 works. Again, there are some people who think that that it outright removes weather, including the AI in battle facilities sometimes. I'm sure I've told the story before about how I had an Altaria out against a Delphox in the Battle Maison that was using Sunny Day, and... Yeah, it thought that my Cloud9 was getting rid of Sun, so it kept spamming Sunny Day, even though Sun was technically still up, so it kept failing, and I just spammed Dragon Dances and swept the team. That was pretty funny. I mean, you know, you take all you can get when it comes to the AI in those facilities, because it's usually a cheating jerk. But anyway, Venomoth, Shadow Pokemon. So yeah, lots and lots of... That Golduck is not having a very good day. Lots and lots of... I was about to say Safari Zone Pokemon, but... the Venomoth is the only Safari Zone Pokemon we've seen. Well, actually, Paris is a Safari Zone Pokemon. But... Yeah, lots and lots of Gen 1 Pokemon. Venomoth is kind of a rare Pokemon from the Safari Zone back in the Gen 1 games, I believe. Although Venonat was a lot more common. I remember I'd run into Venomoth a lot looking for Tauros or Chansey. I still can't believe that one worst video. Oh, by the way, this is also a Shadow Pokemon. So yeah, 2 Shadows in this fight. I still can't believe that one worst video where he it's insane. He gets a Tauros and a Chansey and catches both of them on the first ball. But he doesn't get a Nidoran male, which is the one thing he actually needs, and it's the most common encounter in the entire Safari Zone. That's just ridiculous. It's, I feel like he might be one of the few people out there who actually has worse luck than me in terms of Pokemon. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and throw another Netball at this Venomoth, because, yep, it's a bug type. Remember when I said that you want a lot of Netballs going into this area? Yeah, there are a lot of Pokemon that Netballs work effectively on. There won't be very many going forward, but for now, 1, 2, 3... Venomoth gets. Netball's always reliable. Stat-wise, Venomoth is at least better than Butterfree or Beedrill, so it's probably a better option for your team in the long run. Butterfree will have more immediate access to Sleep Powder and has the Compound Eyes ability, but Venomoth will be more helpful offensively, particularly in having Psychic on its starting moveset. Silver Wind sadly is not that good in this generation because it's physical. And because of this, the Silver Powder item that this Venomoth comes with is also not that useful for it. Venomoth is also stuck with a pretty bad XD exclusive move, whereas Butterfree got a decent one. Weirdly though, it also has Substitute on its starting move, so I guess that prevents you needing to go to the move tutor for that. It's not the best user of Substitute, but it's okay. Other than that, Venomoth doesn't have that many options. You definitely want to teach Giga Drain to take out rock types, and also because it's one of the only special moves that Venomoth gets. There's also Thief. Yeah, that should tell you something. Venomoth is pretty strapped for special moves in this generation, and that's probably a big part of what makes it not as good as it would be if this was a later Pokemon game. No Quiver Dance, and very limited access to special moves. But, like I said, stat-wise, it is the best bug type in the Cypher Key lair. Yeah, I actually love netballs, because even though they only have their multiplier against 2 types, they're 2 very, very common types. So, yeah, I find them actually one of the most useful types of, well, I mean, you know, when they introduce Dusk Balls later, you get a 3.5 times multiplier against anything, provided you waited until nighttime. I actually really didn't like that. I thought that was kind of annoying. I don't think a crit is going to KO, so I'm just going to go for a Stun Spore here. But, yeah. I think Dusk Balls are a bit overpowered, personally. I mean, they wouldn't do anything in this game because there's no day-night cycle, but yeah. Considering that just about every Pokemon can potentially be caught either at nighttime or in a cave, you can pretty much get the multiplier all the time, and yes, you also have Shadow Rave. We'll be seeing something even worse than Shadow Rave eventually, but for now, all we need to do is just contend ourselves with Shadow Rave. I don't want to use an Ultra Ball. I'm going to save those for what's coming up next, and I'll just False Swipe you in case this fails. Weepinbell's another Pokemon that I keep thinking is a Safari Zone Pokemon, but it's actually not. 1, 2, 3. Weepinbell gets. Weepinbell is kind of an interesting Pokemon in that it's incredibly similar to a Shadow Pokemon that was available much, much earlier in the game, Seedot. Both of them in their final forms become great mixed sweepers that are particularly good under the sun thanks to Chlorophyll. They also both require a Leaf Stone to reach their final form, so if you plan on using Shiftry, you're probably not going to be using Victreebel, and vice versa. The main differences between them are the secondary typings. Shiftry is part Dark, while Victreebel is part Poison. In some ways, Victreebel's typing fits its role as a mixed sweeper better for a Gen 3 Pokemon, because it has Stab on both sides of the spectrum. But the other thing that in my opinion makes this Shadow Weepinbell quite a good choice, unlike Nuzleaf, which will take forever to learn really good moves, this Weepinbell is pretty much ready to evolve right now. The only better grass stabs than Magical Leaf come from TMs. Morning Sun is pretty great, especially in Sunny Day. Sludge Bomb you definitely want. And Sweet Scent is the only real dud here, so that's the one move that I'd replace. Also, there are really only 3 moves in Weepinbell's level up repertoire that I would say are worth it. Growth and Sleep Powder, both via Move Relearner, or Razor Leaf, which is mainly only if you want spread damage. All 3 of these moves, however, are available to Victreebel via the Move Relearner, so there's really no reason not to use the Leaf Stone right now. So, replace Magical Leaf with either Razor Leaf, Giga Drain, or Solar Beam, and replace Sweet Scent with either Sleep Powder or Sunny Day, and in my opinion, you've got a perfect endgame moveset for Victreebel already. So, like I said, Victreebel and Shiftry both fulfill very similar roles on a team once they reach their final stage. But it takes a long time of waiting to get good moves on Shiftry, whereas Weepinbell is ready to go right from the start, so despite the fact that you don't get it until quite late in the game, it may be one of your best options for a grass type depending on your needs. And with that, we have defeated this trainer. Yeah, Weepinbell's the counterpart version exclusive to Oddish, I believe. I'm pretty sure that's right. Oddish has just been in so many games, and Weepinbell's been in so few that it's hard to think of Oddish as once being version exclusive, but I think it was. I mean, it probably was, if I'm remembering right. And yeah, if you're wondering why there is not a Shadow Oddish in either of the 2 games, it's because it's readily available in Ruby and Sapphire, so they felt that it wasn't as necessary to have a Shadow one of that. Whereas you might not have... Bellsprout was exclusive to... No, it must have been exclusive to Fire Red, because I use one on my main Fire Red team. Anyway... Gotta go for these 2 at the moment. and go up here to fight against you. But first, I will open this chest, because this chest is a very, very good item. TM26. This was a very, very coveted item back in the days before TMs were infinite use, because it's Earthquake. The move that every physical attacker ever wanted in competitive, but there was only one Earthquake TM per playthrough, so yeah, it sucked playing competitive back then. Speaking of sucking, don't teach that to Dusclops, it's a bad idea. I might end up teaching this to either Orson or Fish Slayer eventually, but I'm going to have to debate which of the two I want to teach it to, and I may need to teach Protect to some members if I'm going to do that, mainly Levatine, because yeah. Speaking of which, I haven't actually used Levatine's helping hand in a while. But, we have a scientist to fight. Huh, funny you should mention the system lever. I actually have it. So, I actually forget if it's possible to get the to not get the system lever yet, and then he'd have different dialogue. He probably does have different dialogue if you don't have it, but anyway. Ha! Thank you so much for telling me exactly how to stop your evil plan. Don't you just love random grunts in the series that do that? Cypher R&D, not Peon, Akrod. The murder of the team of Roger Akrod. I don't mean that literally, obviously. This isn't a Nuzlocke. But anyway. Well, I was about to say I'm glad for this lead combo, and then I realized there's a Seadra there, and Levatine doesn't like that. But I can Shadow Ball the Grumpig, and I can probably do this. So, let's just crunch you. And that's a terrible move. Twister is a dragon move. In fact, it was one of the first damaging dragon moves, because, well, Dragon Rage doesn't count because it's a fixed damage attack. And it's only 40 base power, and it hits both targets in double battle, making it even weaker. The only really notable thing about Twister is, like Gust, it's a move that can hit things that are in the air with Fly, and it does have double power if it does, but it's still a terrible move. Don't use it ever. I kind of feel like, okay, something about Camera Up that I haven't actually mentioned before is I love how it sort of mouths its cry when it's sent out. There is another Pokemon that's going to be sent out very soon that also does that. But what I was saying was, what was I saying actually? Let me just come back to that. Something to do with, I've actually lost my previous train of thought. Sorry about that. Got a bit distracted by Camera Up. But we have a level up here, which is nice. But you might notice something, the levels this guy has are a lot higher than what we're used to. Yeah, see, Seaking also mouths its cry. Alright, I was talking about Twister and, something about Twister. Oh, that's it! Yeah, I feel like Twister was introduced as a way of apologizing for the incident in the anime with Gyarados using Dragon Rage and it looking like a Twister. And they're like, okay, yeah, well, let's make a move that actually is a Twister and is associated with dragons, then that'll make sense, but it's also a really bad move, so I don't know why they bothered doing that. This sounds really weird, but I'm actually going to use Ice Beam on the Seadra. Because, bear with me for a second, this is not a contact move, so I don't risk activating Poison Point. Because, yeah, Seadra is that weird oddball in its evolution line where its previous form and its final form all have a Swift Swim, but it has Poison Point. So, kind of weird like that. It always feels like Seadra should have been Water Poison, but I don't know. That did less than I expected, but this is probably going to do about as much as I'd expect from... Actually, no, that did a lot more than I expected. Wow, Horn Attack is only like 40 power, isn't it? But anyway... yeah, you know what? This is probably going to destroy the Pilot Swine, but just in case I miss, I'm going to go for a Water Pulse. Yeah, this is one of those times where Water Pulse is going to out-damage Ice Beam. Or I can get a critical, that works too. But yeah, because Ice is only resistant to itself, and Ground's weak to Ice, Ice Beam would have been neutral, Water Pulse would have been super effective, so... Yeah, long story short, Water Pulse does more. Also, this won't be able to burn. Actually, this might hurt a lot. Please don't. Well, a crit certainly will. This feels a little bit wasteful, but I think I'm going to have to use a revive just because I really want Leviathan to get the experience from this fight, so I'm going to go ahead and use a revive. But yeah, actually, yeah, Seeking does have Swift Swim as well, but it can have Water Veil, which makes it immune to burns. But yeah, this feels like a waste of a revive, but like I said, I really want Leviathan to gain the experience from this fight, because he's getting a little behind in levels, and we don't want that because, as you can see, the levels have spiked up a lot. They've gone from, like, low 30s to mid-30s pretty much instantly, and they're only going to get worse. Also, Flareon has finally broken the 100 attack mark. And so, we have defeated Akrod. And Fishslayer just wanted to say hi to the camera there. You're not really in much of a position to demand the system lever back from me. So, well, especially not now that you've disappeared. Also, as added insult to injury, that Zangoose can now be purified. Right, let me just... how many of these I have? I've only got a few of these. I'll just use that one. Because after we do what we're going to do here, we're going to be launched directly into another fight with no time to go back to the healing machine. So, it's also a fight a fight with someone that we'll be quite familiar with, let's just say. So, I'll want to be prepared for that. Firstly, well, actually, you can go to the healing machine now if you want. That's probably a good time. Because after you insert the system lever, you will be launched into another fight, basically. So, to adjust voltage, use the system lever. Warning, do not raise the voltage too high. Normally, I'd advise following that, but this is an evil team's hideout, so they kind of deserve it. You can choose to lower the voltage, but it doesn't do anything. So, the only way to progress is to be irresponsible with electricity. That doesn't sound good. That doesn't sound good. Now, this is entirely scripted. We can just stand here as long as we want, and this thing won't blow until we start leaving. Let's start leaving now. But really, you want to get as far away from that thing as possible as soon as possible, but I can just stand here knowing that it won't blow up because, yeah, scripted events. It's kind of a dodgy screen shake effect there, but I guess it fits with getting the Team of Earthquake up there. And with that broken, that means the lock on the door is down. Either that or they decide to open it. The control ship has been destroyed! Look! I'm sorry. So yeah, it's smart, and I still feel like he and Snidel should have switched names, but anyway. And it also completely deleted the production software, so that's a nice coincidence. And it's rematch time. Now, Smarten wasn't important enough to have a Shadow Pokemon last time. That may have changed this time, but one thing that I really like is, he actually uses the same team that he did before, but they've all evolved now. Well, apart from Huntail, who was already evolved. So, Cacturn. Yeah, that Cacturn is probably going to need to get Fire Blasted, but... yeah, this is kind of a problem. I still want to debilitate the Huntail. Huntail's actually kind of a threat, so I want to get rid of that. That's caused bad issues for me in the past. Let's see if it will cause bad issues for me in the present. Now Ricky's falling behind levels. Wheezing. So yeah, he did have a coughing before, so that's also evolved now. And I may want to get Ricky out of here because I don't fancy Ricky's chances against a Wheezing. Even though this Weezing's best poison move, I think, is just Sludge, but Sludge is kind of dangerous still. I have a feeling I know who that's aiming for. I was wrong, because Cypher are idiots. Never overestimate the intelligence of AI opponents. Also, I will need to heal after this because Fire Blast is running low. But yeah, also, look at the levels here. Yeah, the levels spike up very, very quickly. This guy's almost boss tier in terms of his levels. In fact, I kind of classify him as a mini-boss in his own right. I guess he and Snidel were the mini-bosses in this area. Oh, don't hit Leviathan, please. That'd be pretty bad. That's fine. I sort of want to keep Ricky in just because of the... well, someone's not going to be able to switch out. I wonder if it'll be Ricky. No, it's not Ricky. But yeah, I would like Ricky to gain the experience here. That's kind of funny. Just like Cloyster, Huntail is another Pokemon that can learn both Whirlpool and Clamp, which are functionally pretty much the same move. I think Clamp is a bit stronger, but I'm not sure. Yeah, Mach Punch is really starting to show its weakness at this point in the game. It was great for when we first got it, but not really that much anymore. Thankfully, we do learn Sky Uppercut quite soon. I think it's at level 36 or 37, so it's a few levels off. But once Ricky does get Sky Uppercut, things will get better. I'm just really annoyed at the lack of decent physical grass moves in this generation, because physical grass moves, like, as a whole, don't even exist. Meanwhile, Yoda's going to continue to do that. Another one of those demoted moves. Used to be an HM, now it's, well, not. Yeah, I think it's only ever been an HM in Johto, which is kind of a new record for, like, least generation someone was an HM for. Except Defog. I don't think Defog continued to be an HM after it first appeared. But anyway, let's go for a Mach Punch. Okay, it's still pretty effective against normal types. Okay, good. That one miss with Fire Blast earlier was probably just a fluke. I'm back to my usual weird Fire Blast luck. And Ursaring is down, so what comes next? Arbok! You didn't have that last time. Also, that's a Kanto Pokemon, and you know what that means. Yep, it's a Shadow Pokemon. Now, I want to pay attention here. Okay, it has Intimidate. I can safely status it. So, this is something that you want to pay attention to. If you don't see this Arbok activate Intimidate, then you know that it has Shed Skin. And that means it's really, really frustrating to try and catch it, because it will randomly cure itself of status in between turns. So, when I was practicing this, I actually did end up with it having Shed Skin, and I found that out the hard way. But now I'm like, okay, I know that if it has Intimidate, I know that I can status it safely, but if it doesn't, then I know to watch out for Shed Skin. Shed Skin is, in a way, kind of an underrated ability. Like, wow. I mean, Huntail has okay defense, but I didn't expect it to be doing that little. But yeah, it is one of those abilities that I think Smogon did try and, like, test out on a creator Pokemon once. Just as a way of being like, okay, this is like an underused ability, let's see if it's any good if we have it on a Pokemon that's decent, because there really aren't very many decent Pokemon that have Shed... I was about to say learn Shed Skin, but no, you don't learn abilities, you just naturally have them. There aren't that many particularly amazing Pokemon that have Shed Skin. Because in a lot of ways, it's mainly restricted to mid-stage Pokemon. Like, a lot of the Cocoons have it, and Pupitar has it. Okay, now one thing to note is this Arbok has access to this one Shadow move that's actually pretty dangerous. It's not using it, okay then. It also makes it a pretty valuable Shadow Pokemon to catch. I will say, even if you're not going for 100%, you want to catch this Arbok. Because it has a move that is incredibly helpful against other Shadow Pokemon. But for some reason, it's just not that inclined to use it while under AI control. I don't know why, because it's actually a very good move, but... in fact, I wanted to use it because it's going to make himself easier to catch, but... yeah, it doesn't seem like that's going to happen anytime soon. Well, you never know. Maybe this won't catch. 1, 2... 3. Arbok gets, or maybe it will. This Shadow Arbok is very special and useful for one reason, and one reason alone. So, I'm just going to quickly rattle off everything else just so I can explain that one reason. Arbok is a pretty mediocre poison type, with its best stats only being in the 80s, not learning very many good moves. I mean, it does get Earthquake by TM, but it's still not the best Pokemon to use that TM on. And there really isn't much notable about it other than access to Glare and possibly having the Intimidate ability. I definitely recommend that over Shed Skin. So normally, I would never recommend using this Arbok, especially since the Shadow Grimer that was available earlier is a much better pure poison type. But this Arbok, while it is still a Shadow Pokemon, has access to one of the best utility moves in the game. And I thought I'd go into detail here because this is the first Shadow Pokemon we've got that has this move. Shadow Half. Shadow Half is kind of self-explanatory. it halves the HP of every Pokemon on the field, both yours and your opponent's. This includes Arbok itself. Now, you might be thinking, halving the HP of my own Pokemon? That's terrible, I'm gonna get wiped out quickly. But this is actually one of the most useful tools in your arsenal for catching other Shadow Pokemon. Remember that, since all battles in XD are double battles, you can have Arbok use Shadow Half, then use its partner's turn to use a healing item and restore Arbok back to full health, thus averting the downsides of the move. Think of it like a Super Fang on both opponents at once. This is a move that shaves off a huge chunk of a Shadow Pokemon's HP, and there's absolutely no fear of knocking them out. Because being percentage based, it can't KO anything, ever. Theoretically, if you keep spamming Shadow Half, you can have your opponent's Shadow Pokemon down to very low health at no risk of KOing them. Not to mention that, while it's a Shadow Pokemon, Arbok is resistant to Shadow attacks, and it also might have the Intimidate ability to increase its bulk against Shadow Pokemon even more. Why this is so useful is that from here on, 2 or more Shadow Pokemon, and yes, I did say or more, it gets even worse than this, but 2 or more Shadow Pokemon is going to be the norm for every Shadow fight. And when there are 2 opposing Shadow Pokemon on the field at once, Shadow Half is one of the best moves in the game. And being the first Pokemon to have this move makes an otherwise mediocre option in Arbok actually a fantastic utility choice for your team. Well, that is if you don't care about having to drag around a non-purified Shadow Pokemon for a while. It's definitely a good thing to hold off on purifying this Shadow Arbok for as long as possible, at least until we get another Shadow Pokemon with Shadow Half, and that won't be for a while. I've actually seen very few people who've done XD playthroughs comment on just how good Shadow Half is, so I felt I needed to fill the void here. So while Arbok as a Pokemon in its own right is pretty bad, don't let that put you off using it in this game. Shadow Half is just so good, it actually makes the Arbok a fantastic team member. Gorgon! I kind of love that defeat quote. I feel like there was probably a summer attached to that in the Japanese version. So with that, that was actually foreshadowing because all that remains is Gorgon himself. And I just want to warn you, this is a tough fight. And because of that, I'm actually going to be doing that fight next time, because there are some kind of significant plot scenes that happen after that fight, and there's some other stuff that I want to cover afterwards. So for now, that'll be all for this part, and I will see you next time for the boss of this facility, Gorgon himself.